Is the internet making drums worse? We now have at our fingertips any drum video of anything we could ever conceive of. Chops, groove, concert footage, cell phone footage of our favorite players on tour. We could swipe every 3 seconds for 24 hours straight and not even scratch the surface. We can also find practically infinite instruction on practically any topic that pops into our heads. And for those of us old enough to know, it wasn't always this way. It used to take work. Time was, if you wanted to see Dennis Chambers with Schofield, you had to hump into the library, check out the DVD, or farther back the VHS, sign out a room, and sit there for the whole hour and 20 minutes watching. If you wanted to hear that Stewart Copeland fill, you needed to buy the album, and either move the tone arm back and forth if you were really old school, or wind the tape back, or maybe jump the CD back 10 seconds on your disc person. If you wanted to learn your double strokes, your best bet was a local teacher in the back room of the guitar store, or else a Weckel VHS or DVD. If you wanted to see what other players your age were doing, you needed to go to jam sessions or music school. If you were in a small town, you were out of luck. And if you wanted a career, you needed to get discovered by somebody with access to media. Now, all of that friction is gone. The only barrier between you and any of that is picking up your smartphone. But has that made things better? Maybe we've lost something in the transition. Like appreciating a record more because you had to buy the whole thing. Or people developing more unique styles, because algorithms weren't selecting all the same viral videos in everybody's newsfeed, selecting for the most outrageous attention-grabbing stuff. Or maybe on net, we're better off. After all, if I want to learn heel-toe on the double kick, I can find 1 million videos with 1 click, and 1,000 videos reviewing those videos, and tons of great players willing to give me a Zoom lesson. Well, today, we're going to talk about it. I'm Nate, this is the 80/20 Drummer, and this is what we do here. We'll look at 4 big things that have changed since everybody got online. 4 trade-offs. For instance, you used to have to spend time looking for drummers to watch, and now algorithms show you exactly what's going to be most entertaining. But does that select from musical fast food, giving us all a sugar crash? And you used to have to be in a band that got signed, or win a competition, or know the right people to make a living playing. But now you just need to make enough of those videos and get enough followers. But what's happened to the careers of people who used to depend on record sales? We'll discuss those trade-offs and more. Stay tuned. And folks, the fact that there's so much drum instruction online, and it can be a little difficult to filter out the stuff you actually need from the rest, is the reason why I'm proud to announce today's sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by the JP Bouvet Method. My friend and frequent collaborator JP has what's, in my opinion, the best site out there for drummers looking to get to the next level on demand, who want instruction that's, how do I say this, a little bit smarter. Can I say that? JP's been on my radar for a bunch of years, and every time I would stumble across some of his teaching, I would be like, ooh, that's like a super elegant way to explain that. It's not an overstatement to say he's my favorite educator right now. On his site, you'll find a ton of sequence courses that take you by the hand and introduce you to some of the most important drum concepts for building your own voice as a player. One that has a lot of overlap with stuff you've seen me talking about is one called Triplet Flow Building Blocks. Both JP and I believe the missing step in a lot of previous generation instructional material was the whole use words in a sentence thing. That's the reason why you could learn a concept and it just wouldn't come through in your playing. But JP's method has that so baked in that you won't believe how easy it is and how simple it seems to be using and having fun with these concepts from practically day one. Anyway, when you click the link below this video, you'll get a free 7-day trial to JP Bouvet Method. Now, on with the video. Trade-off 1, access versus homogeneity. That's a fancy way of saying, on the upside, anybody anywhere can see great players with the click of a button, and on the downside, has that caused all of us to kind of sound the same? Let's first cast our imaginations back to the before times. A typical convo in my college days might go like this. Bro, you heard of Eric Harland? I was at the 55 bar last night and he crushed. He's gonna change drumming. No, I was just listening to Pat Metheny Trio 99-2000 on my Discman. I'm going back tomorrow night. You gotta go with me. I'm gonna mini disc it. And scene. This was the early 2000s, mind you. You don't have to go that far back. Now, here's that convo if it happened these days. Bro, you see that Eric Harland compilation on Reddit? Was that the one where he played on pots and pans? No, that was something else. I just messaged you that post. What this alludes to is that anybody can of course now share anything with a few clicks of a smartphone. And that means way more access. Here are a couple unalloyed positives I can see about the way things are now. It's now way easier to get up to speed with the canon of people everybody's talking about. To the degree becoming good at drums is about listening to the greats, that has to translate into more reps sooner. It's also broken down a lot of the walls that used to exist between genres, back when people used to have to decide what they wanted to listen to and then take steps to get it. For instance, many more jazz drummers are checking out prog rock and vice versa than before the internet. It's now not uncommon to see a player whose influences are Matt Cameron, Dave Grohl, Marcus Gilmore, Jay Postones, and Nate Wood. You didn't used to see this kind of thing. Practically every gifted drummer in college has listened to Gospel Chops, Zach Danziger, and Meshuggah. And maybe that's also part of the downside, because when the whole world is your playground, everything gets kind of flattened. Back in the day, you used to have 1,000 little local scenes. In my hometown, there was an NPR affiliate, and the college radio station, and when I went to college, there were the acts that came through town, the great old recordings we were passing around, and whatever we were listening to at a dorm room party. I first discovered Ari Honig in college because one of my classmates had a bootleg CD a teacher had made for him. Point being, if you'd asked 10 different people who are the best drummers in the world in 2001, you'd have gotten a lot of variation. And plenty of people in some people's top 10 list, other people wouldn't even have heard of. Now, for better or worse, there's probably way less variation. That's great for Larnell Lewis, JD Beck, Brian Blade, Matt Garska, and Marcus Gilmore, because they're now legit drum gods, not just niche celebs. But it's hard to argue with people like Greg Hutchinson that it's contributed to a certain amount of sameness of everybody's influences.
You have to become an individual.
But there are ways around this, which I'll talk about later. But it's a trade-off. Trade-off number 2, info versus misinfo. Or, as I like to call it, dubious info. This one is easy to understand. In the realm of stuff like news and politics, it can have world-deranging consequences. But it goes like this. In the old days, there were just a few sources of info. That wasn't great if you believed everybody has the right to every bit of info. We were just getting the curated mainstream stuff. Now anybody with a smartphone can say anything they want. That's contributed to much faster spread of info, and hopefully I can say this without being overly political, it's made it harder for any power center that wants to control the narrative. It also means there's a lot of true info out there, and a lot of BS. This is true in drums too. Back in the day, you used to have to get a Weckel DVD, or go to music school, or find a local teacher. Now you can find anything you want at the swipe of a finger on a smartphone. And there's some people who say that's making drums worse, because in the past you used to have to work your way through the system. Take lessons for years, play gigs, then when you got good enough, your teacher would start giving you some of his students. And yes, back in the day, it was almost always a he. Luckily that's changing a little bit now. Or else go to music school and get a degree before you could start getting students. And now anybody can hang a shingle and just start purporting to know about the drums. And what if somebody bad gets through the filter and starts filling students' heads with things that won't work? Well, I'm less worried about that. Not because there isn't some stuff that works better than other stuff, but because I've been to music school, and it's not like people teaching who haven't put in tons of years thinking through their craft is exactly a new thing. What has changed these days is the ability to review and recommend people. So I tend to think at the lessons level, the cream usually rises to the top. You can check this video for more info on that. For me, the major downside is at the casually surfing stage. Because since there's so much info out there, we've got these algorithms deciding what to show us. And are they deciding what to make viral by how soundly thought through the educational system? Well, possibly in the case of someone like J.P. Bouvet. But in most cases, no. They're showing us the most outrageous and controversial stuff, which at the margins just makes it a little more annoying to find one path to focus on. First, the contrarian takes are going to get more shares. But second, the clear incentive is to claim your system creates outrageous results in a short period of time. So it can give people unrealistic expectations and also make them cynical, because there's this arms race of promising more in less time. A CK, it can kind of give you an online drum lessons hangover, which is why you should check out this lesson's sponsor. Anyway, trade-off number 3, careers won versus careers lost. Online drums has changed what's necessary to be successful. It used to be that you had to be good really early, so you could go to music school and catch the eyes of people with connections. So you could get the call from the right band, or get on the right tours, or get the right teaching opportunities or the right sponsors. Now, you just need to be able to play. As long as you're willing to eat Tide Pods, play with one hand, or wear a chicken costume. Of course, as somebody who plays it more down the middle, I jest. But it's hard to argue the online world hasn't transformed the skill set to be successful in a few ways. You used to get hired arguably because people played with you in the flesh and saw your musicality over a set of music and your professionalism. That's probably still true with the big touring acts, but for practically everything else, the point is to have the most followers, which incentivizes shorter clips and creates an arms race for attention. So we still play the game, it's just a different one. Personally, I think online has helped the career of anyone who is a little bit of a late bloomer, since in the old school world, the biggest source of opportunities was in music school. And if you weren't close to a finished product by then, you could kind of kick rocks. And/or is more interested in just playing and honing their craft than doing the right things and knowing the right people. But what about people with a ton of years playing on records, who kept their heads down and didn't worry about an online presence very much? And now they're seeing the played paying opportunities dry up, and record sales went away, and that's killed a lot of ways to get paid. And they're seeing whippersnappers with a fraction of their gig experience get attention, money, and endorsements because they're better with a smartphone and they know how to edit a video to be outrageous. I can imagine that's annoying. And what does it mean for the public? Well, that brings us to Tradeoff 4. Tradeoff 4, on-demand versus sugar crash. A few years ago, I made a video that was only the most crushing moments of my favorite jazz and fusion songs. And watching it from start to finish, you miss something. It's the same thing you miss if you only eat dessert and never any entrees, or only party and never work. We generally appreciate things more when we have to work a little for them. And we're also really good at noticing changes, so great things are more salient in contrast to more mundane things. If you listen to a complete set of Kneebody's music, they're going to be highs, lows, quiet, subtle moments, and yes, those space-melting few seconds. What I'm getting at here is when we can scroll endlessly from the most intense moment in one 90-minute set to the next, are we blowing out our sugar receptors a little? By the way, I don't even know if that's a thing, scientifically speaking. But I kind of think this one's pretty self-regulating. I recently did a video called "Why Does Everybody Hate Modern Drumming?" And if I had to summarize the thesis, it's basically everything we've been talking about here. Which brings me to Secret Chapter 5, Hidden Track. It's not all darkness. For starters, if sugar crashes are leading people to seek out longer form music or older generations of drummers, great. For Tradeoff 1, the fact that sometimes the internet can cause everybody to kind of sound the same, I left until the end a big exception. Really serious students of the art. Your Marcus Gilmores, your Tayron Lockett's, your Aries. These folks will almost always deliberately seek out older influences or a greater variety of influences. I think for better or worse, culture is also pretty good at moving on from things. Sometimes it's annoying, like nutrition science. There's almost always a new fad diet, and whatever doctors were saying 5 years ago, now there's some new study that says it's wrong. But it's also good at moving on from cringe things. The Satanic Panic. Actually, I take that back. The Satanic Panic sounds awesome. Which maybe is proof some things have come back around. But what this means is there's a countervailing force to the race to the bottom you might see, for example, in YouTube thumbnails. 2 years ago, everything was, I camped out in the Serengeti for 3 weeks with just one thimble of water. Or, I stayed at the worst reviewed hotel in Mauritania. Then people were kind of over it. That also means probably we'll eventually start to glaze over at the most outrageous, sugar-high stuff on TikTok and crave something longer form. And a lot of drummers are returning to gigs or starting bands. Like Zach Grooves. He could have been the YouTube champion, and instead he parlayed that into everything else. Same with Adam Ely. So, has the internet made drumming worse? As an optimist, I'll say no. There are some winners, some losers, some things worse, and almost everything different. But it's also given anyone willing to work and maybe eat Tide Pods, hopefully that'll go out of style soon, the ability to make their own contribution to the Tide Pod change they want to see in the world.
And that's how you get the gig.
Anyway, hope you enjoyed that one. I assume there will be some saucy opinions. Feel free to leave those below in the comments. And folks, if you want a transcription of some of the grooves I played through this video, you have only to click the link below the player and tell us where to send it on the next page. Finally, if you're ready to cut through all the noise and take your drumming to the next level with the smartest curated collection of drum courses on the internet, I encourage you to click the other link below and support our sponsors over at JP Bouvet Method. Dudes, it's been real. Always enjoy these. See you again real soon in another Lesson of the Week.